Hey, this is Hutch, and you're listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast.
Hello everybody, my name is Ian Taylor and welcome to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast, brought to you by the Marvel Cards Fan Collective, an awesome community of card collectors and creators. You can find our two groups on Facebook, details of which are at the end of this podcast, so come check us out. With me is my co-pilot in all things Marvel cards. On laying eyes on him, most folks find him a tad sketchy, but to me, he's the finished masterpiece. It's Norrin Rad.
Best one yet. Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh, that was so smart. I love this. My ego always gets stroked on this show.
You always say the best one yet. I love it. I love it.
You keep outdoing yourself. That's how good it is.
Oh, thank you, dear. I think we're alone now. There doesn't seem to be anybody around. But wait, is there someone around?
I think there is.
Who's that? On the
Sharif!
Yes!
Andrew! It's not Andrew. Introduce yourself, fine sir.
This is Lynn Warner, sketch card artist for some Upper Deck Marvel cards.
Marvelous. We finally get you on the podcast.
Amazing.
Well, I've been on there before.
I know, but you were kind of surrounded by lots of strangers.
Yeah, it was pretty noisy that day.
Yeah, it was pretty bonkers, but we managed. And Norrin had builders on his roof that day.
Yeah. So
what a nightmare.
Yeah. Well, at least they fixed it. That's the main thing.
Yeah, you would hope so. I haven't seen a leak yet, but I don't trust.
Well, didn't you have snow day this week?
I did. I had 2 glorious snow days this week that made me completely snowed in, which you can hardly see.
Okay.
Because of the
well,
glare.
the leaks on the roof really don't matter unless you're on the top floor, right?
I am on the top floor.
Well, then it matters.
Yep. It was a bad one too. So yeah, I'm on the top floor. So it's a 2-story thing. So I'm up here. So
Okay.
yeah, but no leaks.
At least you're safe from floods if you're on the upper floor.
Exactly.
There is that. And you and your Pelican case out the window. Anyway, well,
Pelican case floats, baby. So
Pelican
I'm okay.
case floats. Yeah. Is it waterproof? Have you ever tried it?
It is actually what? No, I'm not going to try. Screw that. No. Oh, my baby right there. That's the guy.
Oh,
that's the dude there.
That is your baby. Anyway, enough about that. How you doing, Jay?
Good. Just keeping busy, trying to get things done in between gigs, so to speak. Speaking of which, you know what? I've got a question for you guys because I know you guys are pretty family friendly as far as the podcast goes. Which, by the way, I really do miss some of the cuts that you guys would throw in there, like I can't believe I just said that. Which was my favorite. Should be a recurring thing. But just out of curiosity, why so PG?
I blame Ian.
Because this is a leading question, by the way.
No,
He's
I
always
think
censoring me, if I can be honest.
No, it was. I remember we had this chat, and it was because some of the guys in the group actually referenced. Have actually done box breaks with their kids before, so they do include their kids in the hobby. And I remember once, I'm not even going to say who it is because I'm still embarrassed to this day. Someone was doing a box break on the group, and you can do comments when people are pulling things, and I said something smutty about something being purple because. Yeah. Anyway, I'll let you finish that thought. And then I hadn't caught the beginning of the live break, and I didn't realise he had his young daughter there with him, helping him with the box break. And he kind of read it out loud, and I saw his face as he did it, and he kind of stopped himself, and I was like, so yeah, that's kind of why we. I don't even know if that guy listens to our podcast, but he's a sweet guy, and he's
not now. He doesn't.
Yeah, well, probably not.
That's
probably
it,
not.
man.
No, he's a lovely fella. So that's kind of why we try and do it, and also because I guess if we are gonna if it's quite a niche thing, this podcast, but if we are ever going to sort of hope to become more involved with Upper Deck or Marvel, I imagine they'll probably have a good old listen to our back catalogue and kick us out straight away when they hear last week's episode.
Right. Yeah, no, and the reason I ask is because you've got obviously a lot of restrictions and stuff on the cards themselves.
Yeah, of course.
Which I get, in the sense that you don't want to turn around and you don't want to have like anything too purple, on your trading cards. However, at the price point a lot of these cards at, I don't really expect there to be such a young audience. You know what I mean?
I think, yeah, no, 100%. So
yeah, they're not going to be our primary audience. They're just going to be around when a lot of our primary audience are listening, especially if people are driving to and from places.
I think a lot of times too, because cards are not marketed the way they used to be marketed. I mean, like I remember going to the mall and like picking up packs. You know what I mean? Like we all did when we were kids.
You could always walk into a comic shop and for a couple bucks pick up a pack.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was like, and it wasn't like a specific comic shop. They all had them.
All of them, even at the mall, at the grocery store. Sometimes, like it was legit everywhere.
Yeah,
it was
Target,
awesome.
Walgreens, whatever. I mean, it was. They were always there.
Yeah, I think what happens, I think a lot of times, and rightfully so, and I understand where Upper Deck is coming with this, and I think it's smart, especially for Marvel too. Really, the people who pass on the hobby now for trading cards doesn't come from mass marketing. It comes from premium collectors to their kids. You know what I mean? Or like they donate cards.
And I get that, but that's you're talking about, it's one thing to keep generations in the hobby, but it's a completely different thing to turn around and grab somebody. I mean, geez, if you had Spider-Man sitting right next to a Pokemon, on the shelf at a Target, who do you think the kid's going to go for? Mm-hmm. For the most part, especially with now kids can watch like all the old Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends on Disney Plus or something, Yeah. And they're like, wait a minute, I've never seen this cartoon before. I mean, you could just bring in a whole new audience, and and I'm not saying that, I'm not saying get rid of premiere sets or or whatever, but when you turn around and you take basically your what appears to me anyways to be your more affordable sets and only offer them on, say, like an e-packs, then it's a little tougher for the kids to really kind of get to them.
100%.
What was it when you guys did the character club thing, and one of the guys was talking about how he used to be allowed to trade cards in school.
Oh, Brandon. Yeah.
I mean, you would think that would be more the market that you want to kind of, go after. And don't get me wrong. I mean, far be it for me to, try and tell anybody how to do anything. I mean,
no, a big part of me agrees with you. I mean, man, would I love to see that whole resurgence of like 90s era trading card kind of like phenomenon come back 100%. I just
just based on speculation, you might this year to some degree.
See that? You get it here, folks. You get it here first.
Well, no. This is pure speculation. All I'm saying is that a certain artist happens to be kind of posting some old paintings, and he's a little more. He's getting a little bit louder on the interwebs now. So
is my drool getting on the mic, Ian? Is that too much interference? Sorry,
I honestly have no idea who's doing masterpieces, but I do have my suspicion.
We do.
Yeah, we actually do know.
We actually do.
Okay.
We've got. Well, I'm in the middle of talking to. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we'll have someone.
You got to tell me.
Yeah.
No. Well, maybe.
Yeah, it can do. Not going to
No.
tell you on the episode.
No, you just got to you just got to tell me, and just so
Just-
Oh, yeah.
just so I know I'm
passing
right or
by.
wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I think what's really great is what we can say is that this artist is definitely a listener of the show.
Yes, they are. Yes.
Yeah,
They are. They're very
Wait.
sweet.
I'm keeping gender non-specific on this
Me
one.
too. That's why I haven't said anything.
Even though it's the
Right.
worst kept secret in the hobby. But
Oh, so I'm not even in.
Maybe.
Yeah.
No. I think
I
there's
think a
some-
lot of
think
people
there's a
don't
few
know for
kids that
sure.
have been. Yeah, there's a few kids that have been trying to kind of get conversations going on the group about it. I've stayed completely off those conversations simply because we are working on having someone from Upper Deck on the show, hopefully in the next month
Sweet.
or so. So
Yeah, so we've been
so-
trying, like, not to be rude or anything. We're just trying to, like, be as, you know,
we don't want to pay them off.
and we don't want also we don't want to ruin the surprise because we don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh no. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm
And
joking
we
about
might
that.
only know know part of the picture for all
Yeah,
we know.
that's true. We actually might only know like a
so-
snippet.
So yeah, I think it's very interesting. I know that what can I say? I can't actually say what I was about to say actually because I've been talking to someone else who was posing as a model for.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Some
So that should be
artists,
pretty fun coming up.
So, but
Just
I
to let
don't know if
everybody
that was related to Marvel Masterpieces. But I know that that's happened, and he's talked about it on his social feeds. But there's no indication whatsoever on his post that it is anything to do with Marvel in any way.
Right.
So who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's definitely some exciting stuff coming up. I have a feeling they're going to change gears a little bit with Masterpieces this year. Something about. I can't
who said
believe-
Masterpieces was coming out this year?
Oh no, that's been announced.
Oh, it
That's
has been announced.
Yeah, well, it's as in it's on the I've seen at least 2 dealers with it on their schedule release.
Oh, okay.
Saying
okay.
summer
Yeah.
2020. So it is there hasn't been an official kind of press release saying, ta-da, it's going to be on this day, it's going to be via EPAX and or via physical, and it's going to be X and Y artist, and the set structure is this, the normal thing they do. So that hasn't dropped yet.
Okay.
We've seen.
I wonder
but-
when you worked on Premiere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, when is that drop? I'm so excited to see what cards I feel like that's what's going to hold people over until MM 2020.
Do you mean on EPAX? Because of course we've had
Yeah, on EPAX. Yeah.
Well, I know that let's see, because I worked on Masterpieces in 18.
That's right.
And they had, I think that there was a delay in that as far as what the release date was supposed to be.
You mean on EPAX?
And I remember specifically that it was, and this is actually kind of goes back to the Halloween episode, if you will. It actually dropped in Halloween.
31st of October 2018.
31st, yeah.
Yeah.
And it dropped then, and literally as I was going out to take that picture with my daughter in the
Oh yeah.
moose costume.
So cute, man.
I got an email saying that my cards were approved for that. And it was literally the day it dropped.
Oh wow. Okay.
That's crazy.
Now, and it's kind of funny how some of that works and whatnot, because you never know. Like if you work on a set, let's say that's already dropped. Like I think when I did the first set I did was Premiere 17, and I only got a handful of cards to work on. I think maybe 20, and it was like as soon as I sent them in, they basically got approval right away. But the set had already dropped, and was, getting, put out, and, already, I'm guessing that stuff was already being packaged, for the physical drop. Now, I don't know how it works with like EPAX versus physical, in terms of the, the release dates and stuff. Like, for instance, I've worked on sets that have not dropped on EPAX yet, and yet have not gotten approval to show any of those images. So I don't know if it's, now that could be just a scheduling thing with Marvel as far as their editorial goes on that. Or, because, it's like you can't really, show things that get rejected, so to speak.
I mean, I know from projects that we've worked on that have been Marvel licensed that it's often not the people we're working for, it's the license holder, it's the license.
Yes.
So it's Marvel. So basically, in our case, we were sending it to our client, and they were then having to send it into Marvel for approval. And there was a period that you had to wait for that, which would be a minimum of something, so it would be a minimum of 2 weeks, for example. Sometimes it'd come back quicker, sometimes it was a lot longer. But I think,
2 weeks would be nice.
Yeah, but that's I think that's because it's a different, it's a different type of
product.
Yeah. It's a live entertainment thing, with media dates and things like that. So I think it works differently, but I don't think it goes through to that same department necessarily at Marvel and or Disney. But it is those people, is my understanding, is who have to say. It's not the people at the company that you're working for.
Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, in all fairness, like in the case of Upper Deck, I'm sure that if it were up to Upper Deck, they'd approve everything. Who the hell doesn't want more product out there?
Yeah.
So they're kind of constrained by whatever the head shed is up to. But again, we kind of drifted. We were talking about release date for.
We like to segue on this podcast, so it's
it's time for the MCC segue.
What?
It's time to see where this rabbit hole takes us.
Oh my God! Yes.
Pardon me. I'm going to have to cut that out. Never mind.
Ian.
I dropped the F bomb. Well, to be honest with you, what will happen is that no one will forget, and then I'll end up doing it, which is
It's fair.
I figured out how to do the beep in Audacity now. So
but the thing with the premiere, I think that with like going back to the whole thing on waiting for the head shed to basically approve stuff, I think that really does kind of drive what the actual release dates end up being.
Yeah.
And it really kind of depends on whatever their schedule is themselves. I mean, they've, just like, I mean, Upper Deck is just a monster with the amount of stuff that they put out. I mean, between, because it's not just Upper Deck. You're talking about Skybox, Fleer, all these other entities that they've just basically absorbed, but they're still maintaining that brand, and they have to manage all that stuff. So, I mean, it's funny. I hear a lot of people, well, when's this going to drop? When's it? It's like, do you know how many balls that these guys have in the air?
I can only imagine.
It's ridiculous. And not to mention, and that's just, when you're talking about, licensing stuff and whatnot. I mean, it's not just Marvel, it's not just, the X-Men Fleer, the Spider-Man Fleer, the Masterpieces premiere. You also have to throw in the fact that they're still doing basketball, hockey, football, baseball, all that. I mean, and I don't know how many people they have in the office there. And I know that there's, I'm sure that there's like two different departments, entertainment versus the sports stuff, but that place is a beast, man.
Yeah. There's a lot going on. Plus, then of course they've got the guys who run the distribution, as in the EPAX platform. That's a whole separate.
Oh yeah,
it's got to be. It's got to be a whole separate thing. It's not the same team doing it. Then you've got the physical nature of the production, and the warehouse distribution, and all the relationship with ComC. So yeah, there's quite a lot they've got to keep going. The interesting thing, I used to work on a show called Batman Live, which was as it sounds. It was literally a live arena Batman thing. And
Mhm.
the interesting thing that taught me was that in any kind of omni-channel, as in you've got multiple channels that you're working through, licensing things. So basically, Warner Brothers DC will have the movies coming out over here. They'll have the comics here. They'll have an animated series aimed at this age group, an animated series aimed at this age group, one aimed at really young children. Then they'll have the toy line. Then they'll have this, that, and the other. And in each of those things, the Batman had a very separate, almost a separate bat symbol, a separate identity, a separate focus, different story arcs going on that would and they wouldn't kind of cross those streams. So it kind of ends up being this intricate web. But if you're doing something and you want to release or publish something for the product that you're working on, they have to make sure that it's not happening at the same time as something that's happening over there. So, for example, you probably wouldn't have them be pushing a major set release if somewhere else in the environment you had a major movie release happening or a TV series about to drop, or something happening on Disney Plus, for example. So I don't know if Marvel work in that same way, but I know that with at least one of the other big movie producers that working with the licensed property on that, is that when their movie comes out, they've got an embargo either side of the release date at which they can't do any other related things that are happening with that IP, so that you
Right.
don't pull any
Interesting.
oxygen out of the marketing and the publicity that's happening for that movie. And it can be quite tricky. So I imagine that the Upper Deck and Marvel are probably no different in that regard. Don't know. Well, ask them.
Yeah. Well, it's time for the MCC side quest. It's time to see where this rabbit hole takes us.
It reminds me. It reminds me of that.
I used to work for Fun Publications, which was the comic publishing company for the GI Joe and
Yes.
Transformers Collectors Club. And what was funny was that they had in their monthly magazine that would go out to the club members and stuff. They would have like maybe a 2, 3, 4 page story, that was comic story that would carry throughout the year, right? So It was like basically if you collect them all, you would have a full book, right? And then sometimes they would actually take those, or they would do a separate one, but sometimes they would take those, collect them all into one book, and then actually sell them at like the GI Joe Con or the Bot Con or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what was funny was they had, because speaking of the licensing and the marketing of this versus that, they specifically could not use certain characters from, like, say, from GI Joe as an example. You couldn't use you could never use Snake Eyes because he's in everything, right? But it's like, oh well, they would have to go to Hasbro and say, or Hasbro/IDW at the time, and say, hey, we want to do this story, and they would say, no, you can't do that because we're using those characters in this upcoming story arc in the comics. So then they'd have to basically turn around and say, okay, either A, start from scratch, or just change it a little bit with different characters and stuff.
Yeah, I've heard that kind of thing before. There's also rules around what characters you can use in relation to each other on promotional artwork. So you can have certain characters paired with some characters, but some other characters wouldn't be able to pair. So Spider-Man could go with, I don't know, Iron Man, for example, but couldn't go with Black Widow, for example. I'm just pulling these out of my head, but you do get that in different uses of the characters, and they have to appear in certain proportion to each other, certain color backgrounds. So it is. I know it is very controlled, and I think that's just part of the way that these big IP holders manage their portfolio of characters. They have to a certain degree. Okay, so describe what you're holding up to me there.
This is a sketch cover I did, and talking about pairing characters up.
That's sick.
Oliver North. Is he still alive?
Oh yeah. He's got like a regular show, I think, on
Oh, that's great.
On like Fox News or something. It's kind of like he does. Sometimes he does like a Geraldo thing where he goes into the, into the sandbox or whatever with guys and interviews people and tells war stories. I think it's War Stories with Oliver North is the name of it. But yeah, the guy's he's around. Check him out on Twitter.
I'll have to find it and have a listen. Is it going to be something that's going to set my pulse racing in terms of his political leanings?
No. He's no. It's pretty apolitical on that stuff.
Oh, cool. All right.
He turns around and he's just like talking with troops and talks about different things and stuff. I mean,
cool.
Politics is definitely not something that I generally get into in this field, anyways.
Yeah. No, we don't. I mean, we're pretty good in that regard. People don't tend to open any cans of worms like that on the group, which is good.
Nice.
I've seen a lot of groups turn into dumpster fires as a result of that kind of thing being allowed.
Dumpster fires.
And in all fairness, I don't know. I think that's just bad juju, man. I mean, I've always, and you've seen my tweet, Ian. It's like there's nothing that irritates me more than an entertainer, artist, actor, singer, anybody that's in a field that is so apolitical, where they start yapping about their politics.
Basically using their platform to express their views.
I guess when you're held that high in celebrity, in some cases, there are better things to use your platform for than just complaining about something. Just do something about it. I don't care what anybody's politics are, but I mean, if you're just going to sit there and go on Twitter and then, bash this person or that person and complain about stuff, you're not really forwarding. You're not really putting your yourself to good use, for whatever your cause may be. I mean, it's just I think the tweet was something like, dear artists and entertainers.
I saw that one.
When you turn around and whine about your politics or whatever, you pretty much alienate 50% of your audience. Just shut up and dance for me, monkey.
Yeah.
I mean,
what's the example I used back at you though, which is
it was but then we wouldn't get to listen to why am I blanking on him? I love the guy as an actor.
The example I threw back at you, Ron Perlman. Yeah,
Ron Perlman.
His Twitter feed is beautiful because he is past that point. I mean, he's getting on a bit now. He's in his 70s, I think. He's past that point where he gives the flying monkeys about what anyone thinks of him.
Right.
So, and he's kind of, and I wouldn't want to say it to his face because he's a
still a large man.
He's a bear of a man, and he looks after himself. But I've heard him. He's been on quite a few podcasts actually. He's an interesting guy to listen to, actually. But on that, this is a segue, isn't it? On that front, Clooney, I do have a lot of respect for because he does actually try and do positive stuff with his status.
Oh yeah. And don't get me wrong. That wasn't a blanket statement. For the most part, it was definitely generated at it was definitely pointed at those that just sit back and yap, and don't stand up and do stuff. So whatever.
Which is why we talk about cardboard and trading cards. And
And speaking of celebrities, did you? I sent you, Ian, that video, that YouTube video.
Let's have a look.
It was a few days ago, I think.
Did you send it to me or to our joint?
I sent it to you.
Let me have a look.
Well, that's fine.
Been to sleep
I think it
since
was
then.
That's cool. No, I
Have a
don't
look.
care. My
No,
feelings are.
it was specific.
Fine.
See, I've just got Ministry of Silly Walks. See, that's the thing. You keep you keep sending me Monty Python memes and
Oh,
gifs,
I love it.
which is wonderful. We there's something I've been meaning to send to you. Sorry,
Oh.
I've put a cough sweet in my mouth because I'm still ill. Like 4 weeks later, I've still got this cough that won't go away. So I thought if I suck on
where you died at the end?
throat lozenge, no, that was last year. That was the last time I was ill. No, I haven't. I've managed to not die on a podcast this time around, but there's always time. I meant to say to you,
Ian.
are you aware of the two Ronnies? Have you heard of them?
No.
Okay, so there's a clip I'm going to send you, and I'm going. We've got to remember that we do have an audience, even though they can't hear us right now.
Right.
So I will put a link to this on the tasting notes to the episode. But there is a sketch. So the two Ronnies were two gentlemen who've both passed away now. Ronnie Corbett was a little guy, and he only died about 3 or 4 years ago. And Ronnie Barker was a much bigger guy. He was incredibly versatile. Comic actor, but he also did lots and lots of writing under pen names for other comedy shows. So he came up probably just before Monty Python came onto the scene. So he was very active through 50s, 60s, right through into the 80s before he retired. I think he died in the early noughties. But Ronnie Barker and Ronnie Corbett did a sketch in the 70s called Four Candles. And I'll send you a link to it. And I can't really,
Okay.
I don't want to say anything else without spoiling it. But if you like Monty Python, you'll definitely appreciate the Four Candles sketch, which is wonderful. Let me just have a look down here. I'm just looking at your commissions that you sent me. Your is it, how do you say that DC thing? Is it deceased or DC?
Yeah, deceased.
Yeah. Okay. And then your Absolute Carnage, which is absolutely bonkers. I'll put this on the tasting notes as well. I love that.
Yeah, those were
Wow.
actually commissions that I did for and I sent you guys a link and invited you to the group. I got
just before we started recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like I've got like a new art rep. His name's Stephen McDonald, and he runs this page on Facebook. And your listeners should check it out because I know that there's a big crossover in terms of, when it comes to collecting between cards and comics and slabbing things and whatnot. And this is what this guy does. He's a like a signature witness guy and stuff. And he does he does all that stuff. And he's got a list of clients that that he caters to, but he also does like art rep. And so he's got a few, artists in his stable that he'll turn around and, offer sales to his clients for, sketch covers or even, signings and stuff. I know that like he's got coming up, I think he's got a Romita Senior signing that he's going to do. And for, what is it? Oh, this is going to drop maybe next week. Is that the deal?
Yeah, this is going to be this Thursday coming. Yeah.
Okay. So just for a heads up, this weekend is C2E2. And this is a tangent within a tangent.
That's the one in Chicago, yeah?
Yeah. And it's he'll be there, and he's going to be walking around basically Facebook Living and getting signatures and getting, sketches for people and stuff like that. So listeners should probably, if you're into like sketch covers or whatever, go ahead and join the page.
So this is Clan McDonald Comics and Signature Witnessing, yeah?
Yep, that's the one. And go ahead and go ahead and check it out, and then see if ask to join or whatever, and then he'll give you an opportunity right there at the show, be able to commission stuff.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
But anyway, so like those sketch covers that I did were commissions that I got through him when he was doing a sale for me a few weeks ago.
Gotcha. Love it. Right. Well, we'll check that out.
Awesome.
We've got a guy in the group who does stuff like that. Stephen Bagley.
Bag of
He
fleas.
works,
Oh, yeah.
Bag of Fleas.
Bagley.
Yeah. Is it Beckett? I think he works for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
like it.
And he's got his own thing going on TGR Comics as well. And also, of course, we pimped Annabelle Kirby's sketch cards a couple of weeks back. And
Right,
she's
right,
got
right.
her own Kirby's comic art, which is kind of a new thing on my radar, and I'm constantly amazed by the stuff coming through on my feed from her stable of artists. So, I imagine it's kind of a similar vibe to that. What I love about this is that there's such a good and positive kind of community for that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
For collectors.
Yeah, and those guys generally run a pretty tight ship too, because like in terms of not entirely unlike the way that you guys run like the MCCW and Marvel Masterpieces, where it's one of those things where hey, keep it, keep things civil, so on and so forth, and then as soon as you do something douchey, it's like, you're gone, see ya,
Yeah.
They just don't, these guys don't have the time to, goof around with that stuff, because a lot of these guys, it's like they'll be doing, they're doing the stuff like, take Stephen Bagley, for instance, or whatever. I'm sure he's got a regular day job as well.
Yeah.
He doesn't have time to, waste on, so, he doesn't have time to waste on, dealing with, drama and stuff when it comes to the side gig, if you will,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly.
No, not at all.
I mean, we've all
that's
got
why
regular-
those places, like those, like Stephen McDonald, like his, the Clan McDonald page. I mean, it's kind of like a safe space, so, where you just you go do your thing, and there's, they keep it that way.
It's
That's
kind of
nice.
exactly what we've been aiming to do. So
Yeah, because I
good.
just,
I think
I just,
the internet needs more of those, as far as I'm concerned, because it's wild out there.
Twitter ain't it.
Oh, Twitter. I'll tell you what's interesting.
Norrin, you don't need to join.
I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm not.
Well, I sent you something last night, and you looked at it, and you didn't even reaction it, because I'm not sure you knew who it was. Right? Yes, you did. So last night, I was when I get a moment, I do actually try and promote us on the Twitter, because there's quite a lot of comic creators who are on there, especially the writers' side, and on the Marvel kind of, the bigger guys. So Chip Zdarsky had tweeted, "Hey Marvel, at Marvel, how about a retweet?" And loads of other people were chiming in and say, "How about this? And how about this?" So I thought I'd join it as well. And he favorited the tweet, and I thought, it's just a fun way to get on people's radar. And that's the guy I sent it to, because I think he's the guy who did Sex Criminals, which is most definitely not Marvel. I don't know if you've read that. Have you read that? It's absolutely, yeah. Well, either of you.
No.
No,
it's superb.
I don't even know why.
Absolutely superb. It's brilliant. It's filthy, so it's not kind of a family thing, as judged by the title of it. It's basically this couple that whenever they have their happy moment, shall we say, time freezes.
J'arrive!
Yeah, exactly. Whenever they purple. No one's head is in his hands.
I know.
Yeah, time freezes, and they rob banks.
Time freezes and what?
They rob banks. So they basically go into a bank, they go into the bathroom, they boff. As long as they can coincide, then time freezes, and they're both able to walk around. If they mistime it, then one of them gets stuck in time, and the other one can walk around. So it's a bit, they've got to work on it anyway.
That's pretty high concept.
But it's absolutely fantastic. It's really, really funny. It's really funny. I think they're just on their last story arc, because he's been kind of sidetracked with other stuff. But of course he did Spectacular Spider-Man a few years ago as well. So I can't remember what he's working on at the moment. I lose track. Anyway, Jay, what are you working on at the moment? Tell us.
Can
you tell us?
Like currently?
Yeah.
I am working on a painting which I've recently kind of gotten into, of a was a skunk ape. This is for a project that a friend of the podcast, Sean Forney, is putting together a new book for Kickstarter, for his character, the Scarlet Huntress, and it's an updated, I believe, an updated version of his book, the Book of Cryptids, which is virtually a journal for his character Scarlet Huntress, where she logs like all these different cryptids that she's encountered or is currently hunting. So yeah, skunk ape, grass man. It's the character is based in Columbus, Ohio, so like a lot of the cryptids are generally Ohio based. But this is basically the Ohio version of like Bigfoot.
Oh, okay. So for those who might not know, what's a cryptid?
Cryptid is, they're like, oh gosh, what's the word? Like what is it? Urban myth
So
type.
it's urban
urban
legends,
legends.
creatures.
Urban myth,
Local
monsters.
creatures, things like that.
Yeah, like Bigfoot as an example, the
Yetis.
Chupacabra, Yetis, Jersey Devil,
Oh, the Loch
Jersey
Ness
Devil.
monster.
Gremlins, Loch Ness
Loch Ness.
Monster, which
I'm
is
with you.
that there's actually a Loch Ness Monster in Lake Erie, apparently.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So, and I don't remember what its name is or whatever, but it's basically the same concept.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're like the Mothman, things like that.
Oh.
Like basically every like crazy supernatural type character that was on the X-Files, like ever.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Kind of a thing.
I loved the Mothman movie that Richard Gere was in about
that's
15
right,
years ago
that's
now.
right.
I think it was Laura Linney was in it as well. Yeah, anyway, sorry. Segue. So you're doing this painting for Sean's Kickstarter.
For his book. So I've been, I had started with a drawing that I was gonna, color with markers and stuff like that, and it was like, but I got on this painting kick, which has just been, I did a painting of Elektra, maybe a week ago.
That's the one you sent me the progress shots of.
It was like a 3/4 body one.
Yeah.
This was a couple weeks ago or whatever. And so I kind of got into, cause I'm not a painter. I mean, I'm not, to be honest, I'm probably one of the worst artists ever, just in the sense of, not that one.
Not that one. Okay.
Not that one. But I'm trying to kind of, move out of my comfort zone, kind of a thing. And so I've been goofing around with, and of course I haven't, a couple upcoming projects coming, with, I know.
Sorry, I've just brought up on screen the Black Cat painting that you did.
So that was a, well, and I had done a little bit of watercolor on some cards. As a matter of fact, going back to the character club, Pankit has one of my caps, and which was interesting because preparing for the show, I wanted to go back and kind of re-listen to a lot of the episodes to kind of figure out, okay, just have a handful of notes to talk about things, which I'm sure that you guys have a script totally set up for every time you do a podcast.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm to the
even your segues are scripted.
Yeah,
exactly. Everything's scripted.
Everything.
Even this moment, we anticipated this.
Oh no, this is it's all written. No, but it was funny when you guys were talking in Character Club, like what your preference was in terms of sketch cards specifically, and it was like, I think Ian asked the question, and it's like, okay, do you go after a certain artist, or what is it that, that basically drives you to get a certain sketch card? And Pankit immediately came out and said, oh, well, whatever it is, Captain America's got to be doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Not the static
Posing.
thing. Not just posing and stuff. And fortunately, apparently, he pulled one of my cards where Captain America was doing something, because generally, I just draw him posing. So
I think posing's really tough. I think posing's really tough. And
but to Ian's point in that episode, where it's like, yeah, you really can't do Black Cat doing something. It's more effective her posing, but you can't have Spider-Man posing. He's got to be swinging or doing something.
And
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is the point where I need, because my camera's not working, I'm going to take a snap and send it on Messenger. You carry on talking.
Oh
yeah.
Take. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think it depends from character to character too, because like a lot of female characters, right? People tend to prefer the pose, rather than the action shot. I think typically, I don't know if that's true or not, but from what I've seen with people's collections, like people tend to look at, poses for female characters and stuff like that. Actually, it was funny because I think every character has their kind of like stereotypical pose or stereotypical thing they do.
Yeah, like Wolverine with his doing the Hugh Jackman.
Right,
the
exactly.
Claws out. Yeah.
There's always this go-to. And funny enough, like for me and the surfer, when I first started, I was commissioning so many surfers and going through all this stuff. And then eventually I realized very quickly, I was like, I kind of want a range for my sketches.
Yeah.
Right.
I need that kind of range or whatever, because a lot of people, Silver Surfer is really hard to kind of draw. And just because you have the silver effect, you have the positioning on the board, and it kind of requires like a few different little things in terms of like posing that character and having the lines meet and all that kind of stuff. But I always find it really fascinating to see artists like kind of do that, like that new thing with the character, and I'm always like, all right, I like it. I always prefer that. Like that one, like the one Ian's showing now.
Yeah.
I really dig that. Like that's just
see,
like
really and it's funny because I try to get as many. I find, anyways, personally, it's a mix in terms of like how I approach some sketch cards, and to your point, it very much depends on the character.
Yeah.
It also depends on characters that I know or that I'm familiar with. Like, for instance, I did a handful of commissions for some sketch cards recently, and I did an Omega Red for this guy who I'm not in. Sorry, Jonathan, but it wasn't for you.
I know who that was for. Yeah.
He it's a character that I'm not incredibly familiar with, so I just kind of, and he specifically asked, I kind of want the characters doing something, and I'm like, well, the only reference that I had for like like how who Omega Red was really kind of thinking of what's his name, actor that was in The Wrestler.
Oh, Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke as Whiplash.
Yes.
Kind of thing where he was just holding the whips and stuff. So it was like that was kind of the vibe that I was going for. Now, generally, a lot of the now Ian's just proving me wrong on all these action photos of
well, I have
Black
to say,
Cat.
If I was to say a percentage, I'd say probably 10%. The rest of them are posy.
Right.
But yeah, probably 10%. But when they do tend to do Cat, they tend to do her where she's kind of leaping off rooftops or
right, and that's
through a
kind
window
of
or something.
But I'll tell you what, when you're doing a full set of sketch cards and stuff. I mean,
Of
you can
course,
only
yeah.
have people jump off roofs so many times.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like for instance, if I'm gonna draw, if I'm drawing a list of different characters or whatever, am I gonna have Black Cat jumping off a roof, or posing, or am I gonna have Daredevil jumping off a roof and posing?
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? I mean, it's
Yeah.
you don't want to turn around and churn out the same thing. You know what? See, I totally lost my train of thought because I just went off on a tangent.
Sorry.
My
fault.
No, I mean you were talking about
Omega Red. So like this is a character I'm not familiar with, so I just kind of made it up as I went along. Whereas a lot of characters, like especially for APs, I generally do like to use photo reference. I don't lightbox or anything. I just take, I'll find a photo of something, and then I'll reference it for something. Like as an example, speaking of the classic Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, bearing his claws pose. I remember doing a sketch card for a certain person on this podcast, where I literally used Hugh Jackman as the photo reference.
Well,
I mean that's a good one to use, right? I mean, Hugh Jackman is kind of the Wolverine, as crazy as it is.
Yeah. So, but the I tend to do, but like for instance with that one, I just kind of did it on my own. What was the last? Where was it that I went off the rails? So,
in terms of pose, the thing that was really interesting to me, I mean, all of this is because it's really cool to get insight to like what a sketch artist actually has to go through when they go through this process. But the other part of it for me is, yeah, you are looking at like 50 cards at any given point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, like that
50.
must be, yeah, that must be pretty time consuming, obviously, but more importantly, more like, how do I create this linear story between all my cards? And we've seen a lot of different artists do many different really cool things. I always find it really funny. Like, so I guess a quick question for you would be like, so what's your approach? So you get this bulk item, you have to do 50 sketch cards, and you have to kind of decide who your characters are going to be, right?
Right. And that's that for me is the hardest part. Like for instance, the last premiere set. Because I think the first time I did premiere was in 17, and I think all I did was 5x7s for the 2017.
Interesting. Okay.
But those were, I think I did like 20 of them.
Wow.
But that was like my first foray into doing the sketch card thing. And so like I had no idea what I was doing, or how to do it. And as a matter of fact, I mean it's back then I had to change my name because they were so bad. Under the 2017, I was just Josh Warner. So so after that I was like, oh, those are so bad, I got to change my name to Jalen.
Are you serious?
That's not the only reason, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I was like, come on, you're being way too hard on yourself.
No. It was no. There was I talked about it, and I'll get back to that. Remember that, Norn.
Remembering.
I'm remembering
that segue. No, I think that, but like this last premiere where I maybe got a handful of 5x7s. I think like maybe 5. I got a bunch of like triple panels and quad panels, but the majority was definitely the base sketch cards. And I'll tell you what, man, I'll do base sketch cards all day long because you don't even have to think about who you're going to draw. It's printed right there on the card. All you got to do is focus on doing a halfway decent job.
Yeah.
For 80th or the premiere? Oh, the premiere. That's right. The premiere would
premiere.
have to be. Yeah.
So but the toughest thing is doing when you get a heavy chunk of cards. And I had floated this, for APs to the group once, is who do you do? Who do you
Yeah,
draw,
very well
and why do you draw them? For me, I'm generally one of those guys that was like, it's like I don't want to draw Deadpool because everybody, of course, he's a banned character, but I don't want to draw Deadpool because everybody else is drawing Deadpool.
Mm.
right.
And for the most part, they're all going to do it better than I do, kind of a thing. So I tend to like to do characters that are a little bit off the beaten track.
Mm.
However, those are the ones that you see up for sale or for trade on eBay or ePacks because nobody cares.
It's very strange because like I always think about that too. Because from an artist perspective, if I was sitting there doing this, looking at eBay sales and seeing what pops up and all that stuff, because I know some artists follow what comes up and so forth.
Oh yeah. There's not an
I
artist out there that isn't on eBay searching their own sketch cards.
searching their own sketch cards. Yeah, I'm sure.
See
I
what they're
would
going for.
100%.
Yeah.
I can only.
Of course, there's always something in China that's going for like some ridiculous amount of money, and it's like, no, it's been there for like a year and a half.
Sketch prices are interesting too, man. I follow that stuff just as Ian does as well, and I can always kind of gauge what a price of a sketch card would be, at least what people would actually pay for it. A lot of times people post things just to see what they can get away with,
Right.
from
Oh, yes.
someone who doesn't know anything or whatever. The obscure characters though, like a lot of the times when I meet collectors and we're looking at sketch cards, really it just has to get you once. You have to look at a sketch card and you're like, that's just too cool, and that becomes PC. Very
Yeah.
few things stay PC personal collection forever. You
Right.
know what I mean? At least for me, a lot of other people just get what they get and then they never trade it.
Well, I've
And they
just looked through my
completely keep it.
binder there, and I've seen at least 6 that I'm probably going to offload.
See, like that's
Just because, yeah.
I don't think it's a personal thing. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think it's just a collector thing.
Yeah, I think I had a little trim at the end of last year, but and of my sketch card collection. Anyway,
Well, speaking of real quick, just speaking of
yeah, go on.
PC,
Mhm.
and I'm probably going to exactly what Ian's about to bring up. There's a card that I did for one of you guys that is definitely personal collection, and I expect not to leave your hands.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I think I know what this is segueing into. So we I did promise a few people we'd talk about this, so we will get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So and because I'm interested to hear an artist, and obviously every artist is different; they're all going to have different views. But I do actually have some artists who've sent me their views on what happened. So what happened is, for those who don't know, Marvel Masterpieces collectors. I do the daily masterpieces, which are pictures of base chase inserts cards, but they're the produced printed cards. And then on Sunday, we have Sunday Sketch Masterpiece, which will be a sketch from any of the Marvel Masterpieces series. And people submit them, and it's great, and it's absolutely wonderful. And someone submitted a 2-part sketch, which was wonderful, and it was on Marvel Masterpieces 2008 stock. And this guy collects a lot of sketches, and he submitted stuff before, and it was an interesting one. And I thought about it, and I decided to go for it because it did have a Marvel character. It did have 2 Marvel characters on there, but it also happened to have Elsa from Frozen and Darth Vader wielding the Infinity Gauntlet, which actually, in and of itself, is actually quite fun. But as we talked about, wouldn't be approved in terms of licensing now. It certainly wouldn't have been approved in 2008 because at that point Disney didn't own Marvel or Lucasfilm. So Marvel would have turned around and said, "Well, hang on a minute, that's got Darth Vader on." So I put it up. I put it up in the group and I put it up on Instagram, and I woke up the following morning to a message from the artist who I had tagged, and it's not an artist I'm going to name, and I don't know this artist. I'm not even sure of the gender of the artist, if truth be told, and the artist came back with basically a request saying to take it down, saying it was never supposed to be viewed in public, yada yada yada. I'm trying to find the screen cap I had of the conversation
Yeah.
because I've got so many photos on this phone. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I replied back and said, okay, well, yeah, here we go. There was an
Yeah, it was
agreement with the
submitted by
collector
the.
back at the time that his commission should only be used for personal use and that you should not post these because it is prohibited. I would appreciate it if you would remove these from public. So I've said, thank you. I was not made aware of this. I'll contact the person who sent it, and get back to you. And then, so and I woke up, and this is UK time, so the person who submitted it is still asleep. So, so I sent it, and I got a message back, which irks me. I must ask you to remove it immediately. I do not want this to cause any problem to Upper Deck or me. This should not be posted in public. And I appreciate the fact that they were looking out for Upper Deck as well. I guess my the follow up to this is that I checked with the person who submitted it, and the person who submitted it bought it off eBay. So they're not the person who originally had the sketch commissioned in the first place. So you've got a couple of things in play here. You've got an artist who's decided to go off piste and do a sketch for someone, and they've obviously made an agreement that says, yeah, I'll draw that for you, but don't show it, and keep it secret, keep it safe, etc. But then that person has gone on to sell it. So I did go back to this artist and said, okay, I'm going to take it down, but this isn't the person who commissioned it from you.
Right.
And I did point it down. I don't think it's reasonable to assume you can control what folk do with work they've commissioned with you after the fact, especially when ownership changes. So I've sent you the whole conversation thread, and I think there were some comments on Instagram, and there were some messages on Facebook as well from people who'd spotted that it had come down off Instagram. Now, postscript, I haven't actually removed it from the Facebook group because that is a closed user group, so it is not public, even though Upper Deck people could potentially see this.
Right.
So, are those your knees squeaking there, or is it the chair you're sitting on?
It's the chair. It's the chair.
That's my chair. Yeah.
It's silly.
It could be the knees
but
too.
it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. And I thought, okay, from an artist's perspective, you do occasionally want to draw someone who might not be currently permitted. How do you feel about it?
Well, I think at the very least, I think that the whole episode is kind of a learning experience for everybody. In terms of as an artist, if you're gonna go rogue, so to speak, and I'm not, I'm not judging,
No.
because I know that there are probably quite a few artists that turn around and they get a commission and it's like, it's, bird in hand kind of a thing, right?
I've got to pay the rent.
No, I mean, it makes...
Got to pay the bills. So.
Yeah. So, there's, but there's a certain amount of trust between the client and the artist on that thing. What I do find is, sometimes interesting is you're contractually obligated to do one thing, and then you turn around and do another, which is why, it's like, hey, if you keep this on the down low, no harm, no foul, right? But if it comes out, then, it could hurt. But on the flip side, I think that as a client, and you go into this deal, I mean, I'm sure that the artist told the client, look, I can do this on the down low for you, but it can't go anywhere else. Okay. Now,
So
the guy who ended up purchasing it, he doesn't know what that deal was.
no. And I feel for the guy who purchased it and had no idea the shit show he was out.
He was not happy, and he also had a message from the artist.
I don't blame him. I'd
Yeah.
be upset too. And when you look at some of the older pieces that come from Marvel Masterpieces, like in 07, 08, or Marvel Beginnings, and all these pieces, the restrictions were a little bit less. Like even like in Marvel Masterpieces 2007, I think they had zombies being allowed, and then zombies were banned, and guns as well, and then guns were banned.
Mm-hmm.
So now I guess we're on a secure line, right? So I can talk openly.
Yeah, nobody will hear this.
Nobody will hear this. So I am a
Don't say
collector
that.
of a banned character. And because I am a collector of a banned character, I am very much on the forefront of this kind of stuff. I've had dealings with
downlow
artists.
stuff.
The download stuff. I'm definitely on the black market of sketch card hunting.
Nice.
You want to buy sketch card? You want to buy a sketch card? I said sketch card. Yeah.
For me, all the conversations I've ever had with an artist to not talk about the artwork they did for me, which I don't mention or say anything, and I keep to myself. I realize that when I get that sketch card, there's no selling that sketch card for me as a collector, right?
Right.
And not that I want to. I appreciate the artist even did that for me, and on official stock sometimes. I just don't. And every time the artist has asked me not to show this and to make sure it doesn't get shown. And even if I do end up trading one away, if it does happen, which it rarely does, but sometimes it does, it's always to a collector who I tell, look, this is not supposed to be anywhere, and is usually a friend of mine. I never even move those cards unless it's to a buddy.
Right.
Because otherwise I know that's going to affect the artist's work and their money. And being from Miami, you never want to mess with anybody's money.
Well, therein lies the rub, though, because it's easily fixed by just not doing it.
100%.
On the artist.
And I don't think collectors should pressure artists to do it. Like I just recently got a commission from someone who did a sketch card for me, and I asked if they would be comfortable doing Surfer, and they're like, it's actually banned, you're not allowed to do that. He doesn't know who I am. And I was like, solid, no problem, I completely understand, no worries, let me think of another character I'll get back to. And that's it. And that's usually where the conversation drops. But I do think that sometimes artists who decide to do it and think it's no big deal, you got to be careful.
Well, it's it's funny because you can be of two minds about it. Where it's like, okay, like if you're talking about a specific band character, and again, this is all because it's all based on contractual stuff.
Right.
It's if you're thinking of a band, it's one thing to turn around and say, okay, as an AP, hey, do a band character on the down low. It's a completely different thing for when it says specifically in the contract, hey, we want you to do this set, don't tell anyone, kind of a thing. And you can say that you're working on a project, but you can't tell them what you're working on. And sometimes you'll see things pop up on online where it's like, look what just showed up in the mail today.
Well, that's yeah.
And it's like,
and then
bro, are you trying to shoot yourself in the foot?
Like, I don't know why people are like, I'll be honest, like, I mean, I love it. The collector part of me is
the collectors are eating that up.
Freaking out.
Yeah,
but no, I think that's a mistake. I think that's a mistake.
But I think it's a double-edged sword too, because when you turn around and say, hey, yeah, here it is, it's February, this stuff's on the move. Well, what happens if the base art isn't done on time?
Yeah.
What if
Which has happened?
What happens if the approvals go back? What if a certain set doesn't actually come out until 2021.
Mm.
And this
Now
has
you've
happened.
absolutely just, now the collectors are like,
Foaming at the
Whiskey
mouth.
Tango Foxtrot.
Right. No, 100%. Well, and the other dilemma that just occurred,
And I
which I'm
think,
sure is what.
in all fairness, I think that's precisely the reason that's the deal. Is, hey,
Yeah.
don't say anything because we never know when this stuff's really going to make it out.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, who doesn't want the hype? It really just because it puts a pressure on.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I said,
I can only imagine.
I don't think that I don't think anybody doesn't want the extra advertising, so to
Right.
speak. They just don't want to be painted into a corner.
Right, and expectations are high and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
I think the way this conversation is also what this conversation is also leading into, which Ian, I'm sure you wanted to talk about, right, was the blank that was put up on eBay, 2 of them.
Oh.
Yeah. I've kind of had half an eye on this. So yeah, a couple of Marvel Masterpieces, 2020 or whenever it comes out. Blanks have appeared on eBay. Now I know that my understanding is that the first one sold.
Yeah, the first one sold. I know who bought that.
Did I read? Ah, okay. See, someone sent me a message and said, "Oh, should I buy this?" And I was like, "Well, it's entirely up to you." But I guess the question should be asked is, who's selling it and why?
They're selling it because I mean they're guaranteeing the profit, right?
But it's not an AP though, is it? It's a main sketch blank.
Was it a blank or was it an AP? I forget.
I don't think it was an AP, and I know that
it was not an AP.
Yeah, and that is
So it was
extreme
base.
no in terms of your from every artist I've spoken to. That's APs are one thing, but the stuff that you're sent to and your contract is to draw pictures on that and send it back, all of them, you shouldn't sell those blanks.
Now, and again, this actually kind of goes back to the, first of all, I don't think you can do anything on the downlow online. Certainly not eBay.
No.
But
True.
On the flip side, it's like, let's say you're contractually obligated to do 50 cards. Let's say you get your box, you count your cards, and you have 51. Okay. Yeah. You're gonna only get paid for the 50.
Interesting.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, personally, if it were me, I would simply shoot an email back and say, "Hey, I got one extra card. Do you want me to go ahead and draw on it, and then actually pay me for the 51 cards?" At which point, which is probably better anyways, because you always run the risk of having something not approved.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at least, if you get one that's not approved, well, at least you still got paid for what you were contractually owed, so to speak. But, I mean, that's going into the weeds on that stuff. So, but on the flip side, I mean, I don't know. I think that, I've seen from Premiere, I've seen, like, triple and quad panels that were
there was
up
a quad
for sale.
Panel.
Quad
it
panel,
just happened.
blank.
So there was a quad that was up on sale and for sale. And what ended up happening was someone bought the blank, commissioned a video game artist, or they knew a friend or whatever, and they drew a really nice card on it, but it's a banned character on a quad.
Right.
And, a lot of times everyone's trying to judge the market. You know what I mean? Like some collectors, tend to put outlandish, crazy prices on their pieces just to sucker somebody in or whatever. And then a lot of times, since it's such a small hobby, you kind of know everybody. They'll also pick characters who are highly in demand that are not being drawn on these cards. And they're like, oh, this is a real one of one because you're never going to get a quad. 2017 Premiere or whatever it is, or 2019 Premiere. Here you go.
Or a 5x7 of Surfer.
Right, which is never going to happen.
Surfer and Galactus.
Right, exactly, and that's exactly. So people are trying to,
Yeah,
they're
and
trying to make
again, I
their money.
mean,
I get it in a way.
to each their own.
I understand it. Yeah. I mean, I
You know,
get it. I definitely get it. In a perfect world, no one's doing this under the table stuff, which is impossible and never going to happen.
right.
Like never going to happen. But, in terms of, people getting upset and all that stuff, I don't know. I don't know how people feel about it. I think it's just an interesting thing to bring up and to have people kind of like think about, you know what I mean? And think about their decisions and all that stuff. I mean, I don't know if Upper Deck is that serious about banning people who do this kind of stuff. I don't even know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't
But
heard
yeah,
anybody getting banned for
Yeah.
it. I know it's a no-no, but I haven't heard anybody like
I
losing a
don't know if
contract or not being contacted.
I have this kind of all ties back to the conversation we were having at the top of the podcast about the licensing. I think the yay or nay, and we had Dave DeVries touch on this when he was approached again for Flare, because it didn't appear. And if I'm remembering this correctly, apologies, Dave, if I'm misquoting you here, but from memory of that conversation, they didn't. He had to go back to be approved by Marvel to work on the set. So I think the actual, the artist, the talent scouting, if you like, is done by Upper Deck, but they still, in the same way a cat brings a dead bird or a mouse to the feet of its owner, has to
right.
lay them at the altar of Marvel and say, what do you think of this? This person's work. Here's some examples of it.
Yeah,
And I
we
have a
did hear
feeling
that for sure.
that Dave had to go through that process again, and it's like, well, hang on a minute. This guy was Marvel Masterpieces. This guy was 25% of Marvel Masterpieces 1995. I mean, he's more than proved himself, and
Right.
he's a teacher of art as well. So,
Yeah,
I
but
think it's
not
interesting
necessarily
that
not
it's
necessarily everybody at the editorial board was there in '95 either.
exactly that's what I mean. And especially with
Which is
the whole,
bizarre because you think if they're doing their job right, you think they'd have some history on the.
not
Maybe that was too
necessarily,
harsh.
not
I
necessarily.
don't
I
know.
mean,
I
you
would
are
I would
looking
hope
at
Yeah.
a
so. I
situation
would
of
think.
Yeah,
you are
yeah,
looking
but
at
I
a
mean,
situation of
how much
absolute but
how much stuff does everybody have on their plate?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, if you
Well,
really think
obviously,
of
because they're not
the
primarily doing
grand
cards,
scheme of
they're doing
things,
everything.
I think if you think of the grand scheme of things,
Mhm.
I think that Upper Deck trading cards is probably
On the
not
lowest
on
of
the
the.
front burner for Marvel.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And that's not, that's not a knock on Marvel in any way, shape, or form. That's just
No.
that's just, hey, they've got a lot of balls in the air.
Yeah.
You know,
Ultimately, it'll be, and sad as it is to say this, it will be down to how big a revenue stream is it for us. And if it's a very small slice of that pie, it'll get a little bit less attention than the bigger
Yeah.
thing. So,
well,
and
I
they are
wonder
a
with
corporation, they are publicly traded.
I wonder with the licensing agreement, and of course this is getting into other people's business, but
Yeah,
um, with the licensing agreement, is it does Marvel get a like a percentage of, like, let's say, just as an example, they get a percentage of every Marvel premiere set that's put out, or
they
every
will.
Marvel masterpieces, or is it just a flat rate
Mm.
licensing fee that is that it's like, okay, you have the license for X amount of years, and then said licensor or licensee turns around and tries to crank out as much stuff as they can within that time frame to get the best bang for their buck.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised if a cut is going back. To be honest with it, it's probably a combination of both things. I
Right.
expect that, which is kind of having your cake and
And
eat it.
again, I mean, this is totally getting in the weeds of stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
you do kind of wonder, like, with the, sometimes with the amount of, and I'm not even talking about Upper Deck or Marvel or anything like that, but generally you'll see licensed products where, a certain company may be the licensee, and they turn around and, you know, they're getting close to the end of their contract, and they just start cranking stuff out.
Yeah. Well, that's why there were 2 Marvel Masterpieces sets in 2008, is my understanding.
Okay.
Because they had to get both sets out in that year. Because at the time, Rittenhouse was still the main license holder. But interesting, that was Upper Deck's first kind of foray into Marvel cards. We could go on for a lot longer, but I'm going to have to start us circling into land at the airport, simply because my wife will come up here and chase me with a big stick, and also I will miss the lovely ginger cake that she has prepared. I could always mail some over to you. You look like a man who likes his ginger cake.
How dare you, sir?
So will it keep?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure the Brits don't use the same kind of preservatives we do.
I have no idea. Listen, she makes it. I eat it. I know.
Right, so it's an immediate thing.
Things. Yeah. It was ginger cake. Do you like ginger cake, Jalen?
I like ginger. I like gingerbread. I don't know what ginger cake is.
It's kind of a sticky sponge cake. It's kind of a sticky sponge cake.
Oh, it's gingerbread then.
Gingerbread tends to be firmer, more of a biscuity type thing.
All right, well, whatever.
Anyway,
not a big cake eater, but I mean,
listen,
it's like my great grandfather used to always say, American white bread is basically just unsweetened cake.
Yeah. Wonderful.
He was a Scotsman.
Yeah. Well, so was that your grandfather? You said.
Great grandfather.
Great grandfather.
Great grandfather.
So you've got Scottish in you.
Oh yeah, Scottish, English. So, Warner, hello.
All sorts. I've no idea the surname Warner.
Warner is English. Actually, my great grandfather, who is Scottish, however, his last name was Doyle, Willie Doyle, which is not Scottish, but nobody pays attention to that. But my great grandmother, and everybody denies it.
Nah.
And then, but my great grandmother was Wee Mary Stewart.
Oh,
which is quite Scottish.
I've got some Irish going back on my father's side. They all came over from Ireland, and then on my mother's side, if you go back to 1860 something, it's German. So German, and then that came into London, and they were all around, kind of around the turn of the century. They were all around Hammersmith, and then my father's side of the family was Ireland, then Liverpool, then London, and so all sorts.
Nice.
Hey, Norin, would you like some ginger cake? No, Nian, I'm fine. Give it to me whenever. I don't care.
Listen,
I'm over it.
I'm already working on an English treats box for you and your darling wife. Has she not told you?
She did tell me that. She was like,
she hit me up on Instagram for some English swag.
Well, it was hilarious because she made a friend in Australia, and she's a gem. She sent us a bunch of treats from Australia, which I'm still eating. Because Tim Tams, oh my gosh, they're so good.
Have you finished them yet?
Almost. I have 2 more.
Right, you can do a Tim Tam explosion then. So what you do with the Tim Tam?
A box opening?
Is the no
an unboxing?
So Tim Tam is very similar to an English chocolate bar called a penguin. So it's not too dissimilar from it. But what you do with Tim Tams is you kind of bite off one corner, then you bite off the opposite corner. And then what you do is you get your hot beverage. Do you drink tea or coffee?
Tea.
You drink tea, don't you? So you get your tea, and then you suck through the Tim Tam, the tea, from the holes that you've just made in the 2 corners. And
Ian,
because it
maybe
goes
you
into
want
the
to explain
chocolate
to
bar,
me,
it kind of explodes in your mouth when you because the kind
this
of
should have been a private conversation, Ian.
Anyway,
Sharif.
A Tintam explosion
About.
is an actual thing, and I saw it on a chat show. An Australian guest on a chat show did it about 15 years ago. I'll find the YouTube clip and I'll see if I can put it on the tasting notes, or the very tasty notes as they will be.
Or I can make a video of me doing it for the first time, which would be really gross.
You could do, but that's probably not something that we
I'll
should
do
put
it.
in
You're
public.
right. I know everybody wants to see it. Good point.
All right, we'll do that. We'll do that. Speaking of the tasting notes, we've got all this way, and we haven't mentioned our intro artist,
Our man.
HUTCH, short for Kenneth Hutchison, who can be found on Instagram at don't_touch_Hutch. Don't touch Hutch is kind of his thing, and his brand. He's got quite a lot of followers. He's got over 7,500 followers. So you're doing all right there. Artist that has worked on licensed Marvel characters, among others. And I know he's worked on a fair few sets. I certainly saw a lot of his work being posted from sets that came out in the past few years. I can't remember which ones off the top of my head. And Hutch, I forgot to ask you which sets you've worked on. But scrolling through your Instagram feed, I can see delightful. What's that set? Flair Ultra Spider-Man AP there. And what else have we got? Keep scrolling. There's a Venom.
Ooh,
There's some progress. Hang on, what's going on here? Who's this? Oh, hello. So that's Marvel Premiere. What character is that?
Is that Captain Marvel?
It's Spidey
Yeah.
with like the Spidey arms coming out. And you've got
the Iron
Infinity
Spider.
Gauntlet
Yeah,
going
no,
on there.
I'm looking at this on my phone, so it's
Oh,
really
okay,
tiny.
yeah, sorry. So I'm doing the shared screen thing. But he's got other
Oh yeah,
shots.
there's Iron Man.
There we go. And there we go. So it's a multi-panel
Yeah,
card, which is why it's across several pictures.
Endgame.
Yes, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
There's Captain America there. Who's that? Is that Star-Lord? It is Star-Lord. Yeah, there's his gun. Love it. I love the richness and there's quite a lot going on there. He's used the entire palette. He's gone right to the borders on that.
I'm a huge fan of Hutch. I've always really appreciated.
Oh my
the
goodness!
level of
Sorry,
ink.
I know, and I've just gone onto an image that's truly disturbing.
Oh,
we
I
may have
see
to
it.
say, for our Halloween episode, that is a pumpkin with eyes, not just two eyes, but like multiple eyes all over it.
It's like a potato.
It's like
That's-
a potato.
That's the stuff of nightmares. That's going to keep me awake
Love
at night. He's done all sorts of stuff on here. He's got what's this? He's got a Venom with Spidey, and even Nah has commented that looks awesome.
Yeah,
so
they have really similar styles. You can see the difference, but it's really cool how they've kind of taken the style into two directions. I love it.
I love it. I love it. Even if you're doing something right, if Nah's commenting on your stuff and saying that looks cool.
Yeah.
There's some very horrific imagery on there. What's this one? That's not Marvel. I've no idea what that is. It's no, and you're kind of into horror cards, aren't you?
I love horror
Yeah.
cards.
What's your take on that particular beastie? I'll put a picture of this on the tasting notes.
So there's gravestones behind them, so I'm thinking zombie.
Could be. He's kind of got that
Yeah.
weird thing where his mouth is kind of not stitched, but kind of coming open. Yeah.
Like skin parting.
Yeah,
I love it.
Kind of looks like a zombie scarecrow.
Yeah,
Zombie scarecrow. I'll go with that.
does. I gotta be honest with you. I'm not going to sleep tonight. On a flip side, however, at the top of his Instagram feed, he links to Amazon, and he's done a Cat Life coloring book.
That's amazing.
Which you can go onto Amazon and buy in paperback, and it's an 8 to 10 inch colouring book featuring 25 unique, funny, and imaginative kitty cat meowsterpieces. Meowsterpieces.
Nice.
I love it.
Masterpieces. I love it.
There we
Pun
go.
intended.
That's the mic drop. So Hutch, thank you very much.
I love it.
Meowsterpieces. Oh, we've got to do. Like when the Super Bowl happens, people who aren't into the Super Bowl can watch Cat Bowl, which is basically they set up a room with kind of loads of toys and a kind of a football pitch painted on the floor, an NFL grid, and cats just like doing their thing like kittens. And they also do a similar thing for puppies.
Yeah, the puppy bowl
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
So I'm wondering if maybe we should do a Marvel Meowsterpieces
Oh.
where we can have cat versions of. Now, this is obviously seriously off-brand, so it might have to be a fan-made thing rather than an artist-made.
well, you know what?
But
Speaking of that, I know that Norn had brought up, hey, what is this? What idea? You know, who's got an idea of something that we could do for the club? You know, kind of a thing. And I know that you were doing the thing with the nameplates and things like that. And I had mentioned, I think, on the post, what about an MCCW sketch card?
yeah, we've
You
we've
know,
definitely we've definitely talked about it, and seeing the
Yeah.
Kirby's comic art
now that obviously the
stuff.
issue would be distribution,
Yeah,
but I think that in terms of, I mean, as a sketch card artist myself, I would love to get like a sketch card from a collector. You know, something, because there are a lot of collectors that sit there and play around with sketch cards themselves.
yeah,
You know, and I think it'd be kind of cool, where it's like you kind of work in a trade with the commission or something. I don't know.
That actually
I
really
like it.
does sound cool. I really,
I like
really
it.
like that actually.
I'll tell you who
Yeah.
is pretty nifty with his pencil and pen is Jonathan Omega Hunter, Omega Man
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Character
yeah.
Club.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
is cranking out, and you can see the improvement. I mean, in the year or so since he joined the group and he started sharing his work with us, you can see the progression and how comfortable he is with certain characters, and he's
Yeah.
trying different things, and I really dig it. So,
Yeah, I think I
I
just
wouldn't
saw
doubt
like a
it.
reply on one of his posts saying, "Hey, when are you going to get back to doing the mini sketch cards
yes,
Yeah.
that he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
tiny
doing?"
little ones, wasn't he? Yeah. Um,
He does great
so
stuff.
yeah, no, really cool. Um, Jay, thank you for
Yeah.
coming on.
Thank you,
Oh,
my
thanks
man.
for having me.
Thanks for getting up early. What's your day? What's your typical day in the life of? I mean, I know it's a Saturday today when we record.
Well, generally it's get up, get the kid off to school, have a cup of coffee, maybe watch the news for about a half an hour, come in the office and work on whatever projects going on. Currently, I'm doing the thing for Sean on his cryptids book. I'm putting together files for another Kickstarter project that another friend's gonna put out, Jay Fife, for his character Mary Monster, and she's basically what was it in a nutshell, it's Dr. Moreau's island, where he creates a bunch of monsters.
Yeah.
And then one of the monsters he creates is basically a cross between, it's like, what if Hellboy was a pinup model?
I love it.
And she just goes around and has to basically hunt down all these monsters that were released from, like, this, I believe it's Dr. Golgos is his name. But it's basically like a Dr. Moreau's island kind of a thing. So it's like it's basically like a hot pinup model monster fighting Godzilla.
That's sick.
Oh, it's off the hook.
I love
Um,
that so much.
but yeah, he's and I'll send you guys images and stuff so you can see what
Yeah,
Mary's all
please.
about.
Yeah, because that would be really cool.
Yeah, so, and then I got that going on. I'm
And of
working
course, you got your own
on,
thing going on.
yeah, I've got I'm currently coloring issue 16 for The Adventures of Mighty Moose. Also in the works is a crossover with both Jay and Sean. So it's Scarlet Huntress, Mary Monster, and Mighty Moose,
Oh,
which
That's
wonderful.
really
is
cool.
it. Yeah, and it's a tricky thing because you're talking about like different universes, and
Yeah.
we got it figured out in terms of how to make it work. and then how to make it continually work.
Well, listen,
But that's
crossover
going to be a lot of
with
fun.
Star Trek Next Generation.
Oh
Yeah, it's generations kind of a thing.
Yeah,
so sad.
yeah. I never forget my face where I walked into Forbidden Planet and I saw Doctor Who and Star Trek Next Generation crossover, and I was like, "Whiskey Tango Foxtrot," I think was the
Right.
expression you used. I was
Yes.
a bit confused by the concept of it, but not quite my bag, but still. So Jay, tell people where you can be found on the interweb if people want to lay eyes on some.
On the interwebs,
What's your go-to social channel?
I think if you're really looking for the art stuff, it's definitely Instagram. Is that's kind of my junk drawer for my art. It's was it JL Warner 72?
Yeah, that's right.
And
got it
then
here. Yeah.
and then the Twitter pretty much collects all the stuff from Instagram, which is Josh _ uppercase L _ Warner. And then the Facebook, I've got my The Adventures of Mighty Moose page. And then, of course, my regular Facebook is Lynn Warner.
Cool. Well, we'll link to all of those on the tasting notes. I love your avatar on Instagram with wearing what appears to be a Spartan helmet.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's my wife went to Michigan State, so I'm a Spartan-in-law.
Okay.
The university I
I'm
work
just
at
nodding.
is the
I have
Spartan
no idea
place,
what
too.
that means. Okay.
Yeah, it's a Michigan State University. It's Big Ten college.
Very
Okay.
cool.
Right. Well, I think that photo may have to be in a wonderful frame for our podcast socials for this episode.
Nice.
Sure.
What say you, sir? We've already got a photo of you in your Christmas onesie for the Christmas episode.
Yeah.
Love that so much.
Thank you for that, by the way. That was brilliant.
So great.
You realise
the elf on the shelf.
That's the elf on the shelf. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. My daughter got an elf on a shelf for Christmas because it's not really a thing over here, but we spent Christmas in the US, and so they gave her an elf on the shelf, and he's still on the shelf in February in our sitting room downstairs. So every single day he's there watching. Just watching.
He just sits there. He doesn't move.
He doesn't. Well, he might do, but not when I'm watching him.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he moves around.
Dude, I'll tell you.
Places.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Yeah, that's you wait for the age where that doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. I'm sure.
When you're in the midst
Jay,
of it, you go, "Oh God, when's this going to be over?"
Yeah. No, she's fun. She's 4.5, so she's
So you got a few years.
She's getting interesting. Suffice to say. So Jay, I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind to lead us out on this episode. You'll know by now how we end our episodes.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I'm to blame for why Norrin always gets it wrong. Go ahead. Go back and listen to my intro. I screwed it up on that one.
Oh, that's
because
fine.
Up until that point, Norrin actually got it right up until that episode. And then
was that the episode? Oh man,
that's the episode that you started screwing it up.
I do not.
So I'd like to lay claim to that.
I think we're gonna give it to you. I think this is the episode. The blame is officially on you, sir.
Yeah. All right, so let's screw it up together, Norn.
I'm ready.
All right. Enjoy collecting.
Enjoy collecting.
Marvelous. Thank you so much, Jay.
No problem, man.
That's wonderful.
Thanks for listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast.
You can subscribe via our home on anchor.fm/MCCP. Leave us a message via that link with questions, comments, or just to say hi, and we may even play on the show. We're also on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. Our podcast is at the MCC Pod on Facebook and Twitter, and you can find links on our Facebook page to the two groups MCCW, Marvel Card Collectors Worldwide, and MMC, Marvel Masterpieces Collectors. On Instagram, find us at MMCollectors and at Sketch Card Hive. The great music we use is called Rocket Power by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks to the collectors, artists, and creators who support the Marvel Cards fan collective. We'll see you next time, and remember, it's a small hobby but a fun one. Make mine Marvel and enjoy collecting.
Gorgeous. All right, I'm going to have to bounce, guys, because my wife and my daughter have started eating the cake without me. Which,
Ginger.
given my waistline, is
Lovely.
Ginger.
Lovely,
I love a
lovely.
bit of ginger. Oh, yeah.
Ginger.
Lovely. Milky.
We don't use preservatives, bastards.
We're going to have to put this after the end credits, Norrin. This little
Done.
snippet, I'm still recording.